Stephanie White has been named the head coach of the Indiana Fever. What a shocker. My only surprise was this was so telegraphed it actually happened. Honestly, it was like a Matt Schaub pass, and you could see the defensive back salivating knowing that he was going to take it for a pick six. Now in this video, I'll follow up on the last video and sort of outline why I think White has been announced as the Fever coach. In addition, I am going to go through the coaching vacancies and the best candidates for the positions. I will basically number the candidates. I think it's like 1 through 13 of the available WNBA coaching candidates available to take over your favorite WNBA team. Before we start, if you enjoy the content, then please consider subscribing to the channel and giving the video a like. All right, let's get into this. Now, in response to my last video, I just want to make it clear, I don't know of these coaching hires which one will work out, and the front office as well, with the GM Amber Cox coming in. If she works, great. If Stephanie White works, then fantastic. Nobody ever knows. That's the thing with this. You can win the press conference, but ultimately you don't know until they roll the balls out and how they go with injuries and all of that. In terms of Stephanie White being the coach of the Indiana Fever, as I mentioned in the previous video, is she much better than Curt Miller? She won 65% of her games to Miller's 61%. However, as someone pointed out, she did not have JJ in her first year. Counterpoint to this, if you're a Curt Miller fan, was I seem to recall when the Sun got to the finals and lost to the Aces that he lost his point guard, Jasmine Thomas, and yet they were still able to make it to the finals. In addition, Miller did a pretty good job to make it to the final as he beat a loaded Chicago Sky team. But to be honest, bringing Stephanie White in to coach the Fever is not about X's and O's. It's about bringing in a coach that can take on the Clarkies. Yes, the Clarkies are the ones that think Caitlin Clarke can do no wrong, and if the Fever do not win, it's obviously something's gone wrong with the front office or with the coach. In the NBA and WNBA, a coach needs to play the delicate balance of holding your star accountable but not crossing that line. That was one thing Christy Sides didn't seem to have a good handle on, is she had this weird way of going after Clark at times in press conferences. And it's pretty clear that the players were not concerned about her being let go. I didn't see any Angel Reese type tweets that came out for Teresa Weatherspoon when Sides wasn't retained. It didn't seem like Boston or Caitlin Clarke went to bat for Christy Sides. But what the Fever are hoping with Stephanie White is she can hold Caitlin Clarke accountable and win the PR battle, but you would expect White to do it smarter, much like she did with the Sun. Like, she realized she had a veteran team with the Sun and she would pick her spots to call out her team. She wasn't always on them in the press conferences, and you would expect with the Fever that she will be on them regarding their defense, as that's their main issue, and specifically trying to get Caitlin Clarke to improve to the extent that she can. And White is in a better position to call out Clarke when she needs to. As you're likely aware, White grew up in Indiana, played her college ball at Indiana, at Purdue, under Lynn Dunn. Then she played for the Fever for 4 years, not to mention she already coached for the Fever as she was an assistant under Dunn's staff from 2011 to 2014. And then after Dunn retired, she was appointed head coach by Kelly Krauskopf, where she remained for 2 years. During her first stint with the Fever, she went 37-31, and she left on her own accord to go to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt did not go so well, as her overall record during her 5-year tenure there was 46-83, with her best regular season record being 14-16. But she really played it smart after that, holding out for a good coaching job, which she got with the Sun, and she did well over her 2 years with the Sun. I would classify her time with the Sun good, not great. She couldn't get them over the top, back to the championship and win it, but she held down the fort, and the Sun did basically what they were expected to do. And overall, for the Fever, they will be able to win the press conference when they introduce her, because basically they're bringing in the hometown girl and there'll be excitement that way. And the excitement will probably be that she's not Christy Sides. Again, I've already gone through my 2-letter thing. I thought it would have been smarter if I was the front office person running it to give Sides another year and then let Sides go if it doesn't work out. But hey, they're the one taking the gamble. And as I've mentioned before, their window with these two great players, Boston and Clark, on low contracts is limited. So you need to take advantage of the situation now. So get in the coach that you believe in and move forward. Now, as mentioned, the second part of the video will be about the coaching candidates available for all of the openings in the WNBA. At the time of this video, there are 6 openings, being the LA Sparks, Chicago Sky, Atlanta Dream, Dallas Wings, Washington Mystics, and the Connecticut Sun. It appears that Noelle Quinn will keep her job, but hell, I could go to sleep tonight and wake up tomorrow morning and find out there's 7 openings. It would not surprise me in the least. I think it's fair to say that the 2 hottest coaching candidates are now off the board. Natalie Nakase, who's with the Valkyries, and obviously Stephanie White, who I've talked about. With Natalie Nakase, she was the lead assistant under Becky Hammon, so it's clear Becky Hammon's brilliance will rub off on her, or maybe that's to be determined. Will Hammond's coaching tree, will it be Bill Walsh or Bill Belichick, that poison tree? Yes, I'm a bitter Texan fan, having tasted the fruit of that tree being Romeo Crennel and Bill O'Brien. And coaching hires go one of 2 ways. One, you're getting a retread, and they've car washed themselves by being an assistant coach under some genius, and now they've figured it out and they'll be great again. Or some young assistant coach that hasn't done it before, but they're new. They don't have any scars or bad records against them. All they have is hope next to their name, and they've learned under this coach, and they're so smart in the interview, and it's definitely going to work because all they have to do is go from being the assistant coach that doesn't have to make a call anymore to the head coach. And as you're aware, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So without further ado, the number 1 coaching prospect on the list is Katie Smith, who is the associate head coach under Cheryl Reeve for the Minnesota Lynx. Now for the WNBA, I would equivocate Cheryl Reeve as the Nick Saban in terms of car washes. Go there and clean off your previous record and then you're good to go. Her previous record is with the New York Liberty, which was 17-51. But to be clear, that was before Joe and Claire Wu Tsai arrived and had that Alibaba money where they could get players. So she didn't get a real good run of it in terms of talent and players. But again, you clean up nice in the Reeve car wash. As Cheryl Reeve, coaching tree looks very good because James Wade coached under her and then he had so much success at Chicago. Number 2 is Christy Tolliver, and she is going to get a job, and I think she's just waiting for a good spot. As the only con against hiring her is she has not been a head coach. But in some ways, as I mentioned before, that can be as pro because you can sell hope and you don't have a whole bunch of losses on your resume. And speaking of her resume, that is good for her. She played 14 seasons in the WNBA, and you can sell it that she was a point guard, so she was a coach on the floor. And oftentimes, good players don't translate into good coaches, but in her case, she's taken the time to be an assistant coach and has gotten her bona fides as she's worked in the NBA as an assistant in Washington under Scott Brooks and then in Dallas for the Mavericks under Jason Kidd. Now she's currently working as the associate head coach for Phoenix Mercury under Nate Tibbetts. I would think she would be odds-on favorite to be the LA Sparks' next coach. I'm curious if she gets offered that job, if she would take it. There's so few jobs. I think she would jump on it as they have young talent. But then has she been too close to the Sparks and seen their dysfunction? That would be interesting to see. Number 3 on my list is Curt Miller. The pros for Curt Miller are that he has head coaching experience and he has gone to the finals twice with the Connecticut Sun. Now, despite the winning he has done, there are a few cons on Miller. Namely, he comes across whiny, or as Liz Cambage would say, he's a little whiny white man. If you know, you know. Now, an interesting thing with Miller is the Sun run in 2022 should have really helped his image as he got that team to the finals, but during the finals, he was caught on the mic complaining to his assistants that the players not being able to make layups going to basically cause the coaching staff to get fired.
Honestly, I'm going to get fired because we can't make a layup.
And I guess he wound up getting let go, so he was right on that one. The other one was when they beat the Chicago Sky in the semifinals, he was dumb enough to pick a fight with Candace Parker, outlining in the post game after winning. Instead of being happy with his win, he had to mouth off and say, "We've knocked Candace Parker out of the playoffs 3 out of the last 4 playoffs." And then Parker had the perfect rebuttal. "We won a championship last year. We don't hang conference banners." And man, that has stuck to him in a lot of ways, because that's the problem with Curt Miller. If you hire him, are you going to hire a bridesmaid, basically? He's never going to get you over the top. Is he a good but not great coach? And much like Mike Tebow had around him until he got his championship, fair or unfair, that is sort of the reputation on him. And I doubt fans would really be excited to say, "Oh my God, we've got Curt Miller, here we go." So it's hard for me to envision a landing spot for Miller. If I was to pick the most likely places, I would say either Dallas or Chicago. But if he is hired by those teams, I think those teams are going to struggle to win the press conference and generate fan excitement based on that hire, despite his long history of being able to win in the WNBA and going to the WNBA finals twice. Number 4, I have Tyler Marsh. He is the other hot assistant for the Aces. The pros are that he coaches under Becky Hammon, and surely her genius will rub off on him. As well, he has experience coaching in the G League, which seems to be very appreciated by a number of organizations. In addition, he was a player development coach for the Indiana Pacers, which WNBA teams seem to value very much as well. The downside with him is he doesn't have any head coaching experience, but in truth, Natalie Nakase, she didn't have any either. But that is the con with him, as how will he go once he moves one seat over? In terms of where he might land, I suspect the Washington Mystics or the Atlanta Dream. My rationale for the Mystics, the head of basketball operations, Michael Winger, he knows the G League. I think he might like that Marsh has a lot of G League experience and sort of trust that. The other one with the Dream, I suspect Pat Over, because he has ties to the Aces, might be able to find out if he thinks this is a good hire or not, and feels like he has insider knowledge on him and likes the way the Aces do things because he came through that organization. Even though they didn't cross paths when he was there with the Aces, I suspect that might be another tie over, so I could see him going or landing in either one of those spots. Number 5, I have Latricia Trammell. The pros with her is she has WNBA coaching experience and she had success in her first year at Dallas. The con is that last year in Dallas was an S show. Even after the All-Star break, when they were healthy, they still could not get it together. As well, she was brought into Dallas as a defensive coach. That's where she made her bones, and Dallas never improved defensively. Now, some would say, hey, she was under Greg Bibb. That's an impossible task with him putting the roster together, and to be a defensive coach with Arike Ogumawale and Tierra McCowan on the roster was an impossibility. And if anybody hires her, that will be the rationale that they make. As I mentioned, I think she's been rumored to be the Sky's leading candidate. I can't see that happening, as I don't think they want another player-friendly coach in that vision of her when she first took over to the Dallas Wings, sort of doing the Arike doing the heart sign to her, and she's almost, I could see some saying, man, you were almost too supportive of your main star. You didn't hold Arike accountable, and that's why the Dallas Wings did not improve. In terms of landing spots for her, as mentioned, the Sky, I don't see that happening, but you never know. Maybe the LA Sparks, as she worked there as an assistant. I just don't see the Atlanta Dream, so she'll probably go there. But with the Dream, it just seems like Dallas Jr. in a lot of ways. With the same problem, she really didn't help Arike Ogumawale's game, so why would she help improve Ryan Howard and rein in her shot taking and have her be a more efficient player? So, yeah, I guess the LA Sparks or the Chicago Sky. Number 6, I have Vicky Johnson. The pros with her is that she's a longtime assistant coach and she has been the head coach. The con is her coaching record, as she had a short stint as the San Antonio Stars coach, and then she obviously had her 2-year stint with the Dallas Wings, and overall her coaching record is 40-62. The other problem is that the Tanisha Wright car wash probably doesn't clean as well as the Cheryl Reeve or the Becky Hammond car wash. So I don't see her landing the Atlanta Dream coaching job, as I think they want to go in a totally different direction from Tanisha Wright, and I don't think they want to go with her lead assistant. The one place that I do see as a fit, and man, I'd love it to happen, is the Chicago Sky. As I think the Chicago Sky are looking to bring in a no-nonsense coach that will hold Angel Reese very accountable, and I think Johnson might just fit that bill, but I haven't heard any rumors of her being a leading candidate for the Sky. But if you've watched the clip where Arike Ogumawale double clutches on her free throw or does a pump fake on her free throw, and then Arike comes over to the sideline and is pissed off and gets teed up and hits the scorer's table, and Johnson just gives her a look that can kill, like, what the F are you doing? And then in another game where Arike got thrown out for kicking the ball, after the game, Johnson wasn't having it, saying, "We're not on a soccer field, we're on the basketball court, and you have to respect the game, period. We play basketball with our hands." So if this guy wants somebody to really get on Angel Reese, then Vicky Johnson should be their coach. And of course, Back to Sports endorses this, or trying to wish it into existence, because the content I would be able to get from that if they hired Vicky Johnson as their coach, oh my God. Number 7, I have Jenny Boucek. Now, Boucek on paper doesn't look good, as she's had 2 coaching stints in the WNBA, and she has not been able to win at either stop. So she went 40-41 in 2006 with the Monarch as well. She got another go in 2015 with the Seattle Storm and went 36-58. So obviously her 2 coaching stints are cons. The pro that she has is she's gone through the ultimate car wash, as she has been coaching or been an assistant coach in the NBA under Rick Carlisle when Carlisle was in Dallas in 2018, and then she followed Carlisle to Indiana. So does that car wash clean her up enough and get her another chance at a WNBA coaching gig? I don't see it, but it's the WNBA, so you never know. Number 8, Pokey Chapman, the former Sky and Indiana Fever head coach. The pros for her is that she has a lot of college and pro experience. The con is some of it's not the best, so she didn't leave LSU in the best of circumstances. She had some success with the Chicago Sky from 2010 to 2016, as her record over that period was 106-98, and she did take them to the finals. Chapman took over the Fever in 2017, where she was coach and GM, and it did not go well. Over her tenure, she had a 28-74 record, and she was fired in 2019. And now she is in the Noelle Quinn car wash, but it's not getting real clean, unfortunately, as Seattle got knocked out early in the playoffs. So I think it's unlikely that she would land a spot. Maybe the LA Sparks or Chicago Sky, maybe the Connecticut Suns, maybe a veteran coach for a veteran team if they can get the whole gang re-signed there. Number 9, Olaf Lang. Now, he was an assistant coach under James Wade for the Chicago Sky, and he's the husband of New York Liberty coach Sandy Brondello and works for the Liberty as an assistant. So it seems unlikely that he would part ways with Sandy Brondello, his wife, and coach at a different location. But I guess it's only 4 or 5 months, potentially, I'm not sure. But he would be a good hire for any team, but I think it's unlikely just because of his personal situation. But the reason he'd be a good hire is he's coached in Europe at Kattenburg and won 5 European Cup championships. So he has experience as an assistant coach as well as he's been a head coach. Number 10, I would put down James Wade. Now, I don't think he's coming back to the WNBA, but if he was willing to come back for a six-figure salary, then I think he would be a no-brainer to get, as he's coached in Europe and at Kattenberg, he was actually an assistant there. It's all incestuous. Like, I think he coached under Olaf, and then when Wade was in charge of Chicago, he brought in Olaf to be his assistant. So he knows the Europe game and players to get, and he was just really good at finding talent, and he's really the most successful coach Chicago Sky have ever had. If he was available and willing to come back to the WNBA and you had paycheck to get him back, then I would do it. I would have veto power if I was the owner on his trades, just so he couldn't make something again where he trade all the draft capital away like he did in Chicago for Marina Mabrey. And to be fair, I should probably have the recent retreads probably ahead of Olaf and James Wade, and yeah, so take it with a grain of salt, but I'd say number 11, but probably higher than that, would be Eric Tebow. Thing with him was he had some success at Washington. He messed up the tank, obviously. I think that's why he lost his job, he and his dad. But the positive thing, if you're the pro for Eric Tebow, is that team got better as the season went along. Like they really struggled with injuries, kept them together, and they made a run late, which says something. And I would think he would get another run. I just don't know if it'll be this offseason. Number 12 would be Teresa Weatherspoon. I said at the time of her firing, I think it's going to take a long time for her to get hired. I think she's going to have to spend a lot of time in somebody's car wash. I could see her becoming the assistant coach for the Las Vegas Aces and cleaning up over there to help prepare her to get another coaching gig. That would probably be the best move. And obviously they have space on their staff with the departure of Natalie Nakase and potentially the departure of Marsh to be determined. Number 13, I have Tanisha Wright, and she is much in the same boat as Weatherspoon. I would suggest same thing for her. She might try to land an assistant coaching gig with the Aces, and she might be more likely to land that gig because she previously was an assistant there and known as a good defensive coach to help improve Vegas's defense. I could see that a good landing spot and a nice little car wash for her. Now, I'll just round out my list with throwing 3 more candidates at you that really shouldn't get a job, but it's the WNBA, and a lot of times you'll get a what is going on. You just never know with the WNBA, and those would be Lisa Leslie, maybe scoring the LA Sparks job. I don't think it'll happen, but good PR move. Same thing with Cheryl Miller. She could score that job. You just never know with Magic Johnson. Remember, the Sparks hired Derek Fisher with no experience in a search of one. Now, the last wild card is, and would somebody hire Cheryl Swoops? Now, I know Swoops says she's not interested in the Chicago Sky job, but I bet if it was offered, she'd take it in a heartbeat. So you just never know with the WNBA. The other thing with all of these coaching candidates, I think it's interesting. I pulled this Rachel Gallen article from December of 2021 going through all of the top candidates for WNBA coaching position, and that one had Teresa Weatherspoon. So take this all with a grain of salt. I can't stress enough, just because somebody looks like a good coach on paper, you never know if it's going to work out or not. So again, these are the top 15 I think are the most likely to get a coaching gig, to be determined who lands what gig. Good luck to them all. Good luck to all these teams hoping for their dream coach that'll solve all their problems. But I can't help thinking that more times than not, most teams' problems are related to personnel, and the coaches is blamed simply because it's easier to fire one coach than overhaul the roster, because that takes time, even when it's often the best thing to do. Thanks a lot for watching. Your comments, your poison, it's all welcome. As well, put down any coaching candidates I might have left out. Good night.